community station. This is Bobo FM. The views and opinions expressed by the following program and its participants are solely their own opinions and do not represent the opinions of DMS Broadcasting and have no affiliation to the BBC.
At the Health Services Authority, we want to keep you informed about the latest developments that impact your health because your health matters to us. Join us each Friday and Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. as we cover health news, offer advice, and answer your questions on Healthcare Today with HSA.
When you have a sports or fitness-related injury, trust the expertise of the HSA Sports and Exercise Medicine Clinic to get you back in the game. Our internationally trained and certified physicians specialize in sports traumatology, sports medicine, pain management, and orthopedic surgery. For treatment of common injuries such as tendonitis, arthritis, tennis elbow, rotator cuff, or knee tears, schedule a consultation with the Sports and Exercise Medicine Clinic at Smith Road Medical Center by calling 949-8600 or visit hsa.ky for more information.
All right, welcome to the show. All brought to you by HSA, and you are now officially on Bobo. Now, this show is dedicated to all things HSA. We usually have special topics. We talk about careers, doctors, maybe admin staff, maybe someone that works in the marketing department, or maybe there's an event, special conference that's coming up. It's all things HSA for the next hour. And today it is my privilege to have two guests. Well, there's going to be three guests that's going to be joining us on the show. But right now, we'll have two individuals. There's no stranger to the airwaves. They've done interviews before. One in particular has sat with our old employee here, Chuck Taylor. So is his second time or third time returning. Is that right, sir?
That's correct.
All right. So I'll have you introduce yourself first and your guest that's in the studio joining us this morning.
All right. So good morning and thanks for having me. I am Dr. Stenette Davis. I'm a psychiatrist at HSA, and I'm also a father to an autistic kid.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, good topic. We're going to talk about why that title that you just said is very important today. Introduce your guest really quick.
And accompanying us today, we have Olarou. She's one of the key partners for Autism Cayman, one of the charities in Cayman that work with persons with autism. But I'll allow her to say more about exactly what Autism Cayman is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm Ali Olarou. I'm one of the directors of Autism Cayman. It's a non-profit organisation that is dedicated to autism acceptance, support and advocacy. We were officially incorporated in February 2024, and we're working in close partnership with HSA and the Lighthouse School on the upcoming symposium.
Can I get a little bit on your background? We're about to have our next guest come in the studio. I think this is the principal of Lighthouse. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. So while she's making her way in, I'm going to have her take the mic. And since everybody's introduced themselves, she made it just in time. I'll have her introduce herself really quick on the mic for our listening public.
Good morning, everyone. I am Denise Renae-Williams, and I'm the principal for Lighthouse School.
Amazing. Guys, what I want you to do, just really quick, we'll start back with you, sir, is just to kind of talk about your background, what you do, especially for you with HSA. Just give us the public a little bit of background on what you do.
A psychiatrist, and just to distinguish from a psychologist, I'm a medical doctor that would be trained in practicing on delivery of mental health services. Primarily in the Cayman Islands, I see persons across the age spectrum, so from persons 6 to as old as you possibly could be, with a particular interest in seeing children and adolescents. And so part of the population that I work with are children with neurodevelopmental disorders or neurodivergent condition, and particularly we're interested in speaking about autism. I serve Grand Cayman Islands, but I also work in the BRAC as well.
Okay.
So pretty much providing significant coverage for the Cayman Islands.
I love it. All right. So moving on, we'll talk with the principal now. Just a background, how you got started, how long you've been teaching, how long you've been a principal at Lighthouse.
Wow. So I've been in special education for 20 plus years. I've just taken up the role as a principal since March 1st.
Oh, wow.
Prior to that, I was deputy principal for 5 to 7 years. I've been in the senior leadership team at Lighthouse School.
Amazing. Wow, 20 years.
20 years.
As a teacher. You've seen a lot.
I have seen a lot. I've been blessed to work across different age group and categories of need, including students with autism. I've had a wide range of experience as well. I'm just in different jurisdictions. I have worked in Jamaica prior to the Cayman Islands and successfully taught students with various disabilities across the age groups.
I see a decline recently in this job, in particular teachers. A lot of people are stepping away from the job. Maybe it's not the same that what it used to be, or they're finding that there's just still some challenges that you don't really get to hear about often. Parents don't. You see, when I found out about what teachers really do was the pandemic. Like that's when I found out how much I respect teachers. So
that was a learning curve for a lot of parents.
It was. There was many days that I said, you know what, you're going to have to focus on your rap career because education is just not going to be it. Because I just got so frustrated. I shut the computer down sometimes and I was so stressed. And I would say to myself, how does teachers do this 24/7? Every day they show up and they're teaching our kids, and it's with the patience and the grace because it's difficult. And a topic that we're going to talk about very soon is autism, right? Makes it a lot more difficult too. You got to have extra patience for that, right? So I can't wait to dig into this, but just want to send props to you, everybody in the studio this morning. But as a teacher also, it's very difficult, right?
And probably I'll just take this one opportunity to big up all of our Lighthouse School staff, all the teams, because they are creative and they are hardworking. And it is a team effort, and that's what makes it possible to show up every day.
Best shameless plug ever. I would definitely would allow that.
So I'll take some time to put in my plug.
Please do.
So essentially, and Lighthouse has been excellent working with persons with special need, and HSA has always been a very good partner with the Lighthouse School for general health for persons, our students at the Lighthouse School, but also when it comes to mental health and pediatric services. We've had good collaborative approaches in trying to get the best outcome for our children. And recently, and this is something that will be highlighted at the symposium, I've been working with Principal Denise and another Vice Principal Denise. Funny enough, they're both Renae-Williams.
Yeah.
And essentially, there is a new approach that she's put forward, and they've put forward, and it's working real well. And I've been collaborating with them with some new therapeutic approach to introduce in the classroom. And we've been getting good results. So we may be able to touch on that a little, but come to the symposium and you will hear about it in great, great detail.
I love it. I love it. There's Autism Cayman is also here. I want to speak to one of the directors. There's also a mom of an autism child. And just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yes, certainly. So as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm British. So grew up in London and moved to Cayman in 2016 with my not quite then 2-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
And I had the kind of fairly typical, though nothing's ever typical with a child who is autistic, experience that she seemed to be regressing in some behaviours. Her speech wasn't quite hitting the different milestones. So kind of a few kind of red flags, they usually call it, where we started to kind of talk to different people, therapists, educators, a paediatrician. So our journey with autism, because most parents would talk about it being a journey, started in Cayman. It's been wholly rooted in Cayman. And we've been incredibly fortunate with all of the different educators that we've worked with, the 2 different schools that my child has attended, the different speech therapists, the occupational therapists, the behavioural analysis, the educational psychologists that we've worked with on island to support her care. And she's just thriving here. So we started to connect with other parents in kind of peer-to-peer support groups and work with charities that were then kind of a special needs foundation that became Inclusion Cayman, in working together to kind of share experiences and learn and, just be with other parents who get it. And that's kind of grown and evolved into a non-profit organisation. That's kind of the next step for us is in Cayman, you incorporate as a non-profit. It gives us a bigger platform to talk about some of these issues, to advocate for other parents and to connect them with the experts in the community, and also to ask the community for additional help and support.
Yeah.
So as a non-profit, obviously we can fundraise, we can provide additional services and support for families out there. And that's really where it's come together. So we're really delighted that our kind of first event is the symposium coming up as part of Autism Month in April. And we're just delighted to be able to introduce this to the community in such a positive way.
I love it. This is going to be a really good topic because I feel more and more I've been educated on this topic a lot. Yeah. I have friends that have kids that have autism. A family member that discovered recently, that their kid was obviously have autism also, and it's hitting them quite hard. It's a big thing to take in, right? But also, just recently, there's a few movies I was watching, a series that I've been taking a huge liking to called The Good Doctor. That gave me hope when I watched that, and I sent it off to my friend and said, you need to watch this. Now, we know it's only a movie, it's only a series, but I think a lot of people like to, when we hear a certain word, then we kind of distance the child as saying, well, your life is going to be me taking care of you all the time. and we kind of label them. And we want to talk about the labels within the interview very soon, right? And I don't want to attach any labels. So I wanted to detach it. And I want you guys to break it down how we can detach that, right? So I'll start, and I'm pretty sure you're going to be the one to kick this off, let's talk about autism. And what does that word mean? And just break it down for our listeners.
Right. So autism, and more commonly persons prefer to say autism spectrum disorder, is an all-encompassing term that essentially speaks to a series of conditions where persons is a disorder of brain development. And I'll go as far as saying nervous system development. And when you come to the symposium, you'll understand why I say nervous system. Where essentially, as a result of the unusual development of the nervous system, there is significant impairment in the ability to communicate in a usual way. And persons who have this condition tend to have restricted, repetitive interests. And so the way that they interact with the world looks different than other persons. And the way that they communicate is different, and their interests tend to be different. So if you have to interact with persons and you can't understand them and they can't understand you in the same way, then you can naturally imagine how that presents challenge on a day-to-day basis. But you said something very important.
Yeah.
That it's important not to just stereotype and say, if someone has autism, this is what it's going to look like. Just like your experiences as a neurotypical person might be very different than mine. So similarly, if persons have this condition or diagnosis, their experience of the world vary from one person to the next. And so they're having their own lived experience. And so what we're aiming to get towards is first for persons to be aware that this condition exists. And then the next step is moving to the point that if persons have an existence that is different than ours, it's okay, and we don't have to make it more difficult for them to have their own lived experiences.
I love that, man. How common is autism here on the island, around the world?
So, and this is something that's very interesting. So, over time, the rates of autism have been changing, and the statistics vary from country to country. They have not fully settled on it, but now it's anywhere between 1 in 36 persons to 1 in 50 tend to be the more commonly accepted number. And we're coming from maybe 40 years ago when it would have been 1 in 600 persons. So we can see over time the number of persons having an autism diagnosis has been increasing.
Yeah.
And again, plug into the symposium again, and we have some data from HSA which show over the last 4 years, the number of persons being treated for autism has continued to increase year by year. So one, the diagnosis is being made, but the other important point is that persons are getting services. And so that is important to point out. And this is where a school like Lighthouse is critically important.
Yeah.
I'm coming from Jamaica, where getting services, very difficult.
Yeah.
Getting a special needs school, even more difficult. And when my daughter came to Lighthouse, she absolutely loved it. The staff there, amazing, top notch. And so I can say I'm very appreciative for her being here.
Yeah.
And Cayman Islands, even having something like that they can provide for the population, and having services on island at HSA and other providers that persons can get the diagnosis and the treatment that they need.
Yeah. My son said something remarkable when he was passing Lighthouse. He's only, he just turned 10, but he was passing the Lighthouse school. And I've always known that the young kids, obviously kids are going to make fun of something that they've been told about Lighthouse, and they're going to look at the other kids as like, oh, they're different than us, but in a bad way. Right? And I just loved how my 10-year-old kind of turned it around. It's like they're misunderstood. Like he said, we don't understand them. Like they're probably way ahead of us. And he's 10. There's a way he articulated it. I was like, I could not talk to him at that point. Because, there's that moment when you just want to cry in front of your child because he got something that I didn't have to explain to him.
We need to bring him on board as a youth ambassador.
Right.
We can chat to him about that.
He's like, awesome. He said, we don't understand them. That's what it is. And I was like, wow, I love that. I absolutely love that. They're ahead of us. And just how he said it was. And it brings me to my next question, too. It's just a misconception because the friend that I told you about that he just found that his child had autism is like, he's under this impression that he will never get to speak to his son. Never. Now, he has all daughters, 4 daughters, and now his son. And his son obviously has difficulties with speaking. He can't communicate at all. But I've heard wonderful stories of kids that started off that way, but now they're fully having conversations. So I want to just ask, I think this is for the entire table.
Yeah.
What is some of the biggest misconceptions you guys have heard?
So in relation to autism, just to say to your friend and the listening public, communication is not just about the words that come out of our mouth.
Yeah.
It's about giving every child an opportunity to express themselves, whether it is verbally, using pictures, or using a more high-tech device, an app. So for your friend or for any other parent out there who might be wondering, I may never hear my child's voice, but you can hear their words. And it might be that they're using a communication system, such as ProLoco to Go, you have TouchChat. There's just so many apps out there that support students who are considered pre-verbal and help them to just communicate and express their thoughts.
Yeah.
A lot of our students you find receptively, they understand, but we have to give them the opportunity to be able to express themselves. And that might be through voice or any other means, whether it's pictures or through an app on an iPad or other device. So that's just one myth to debunk, that children won't be able to communicate. There's multiple different ways that or children with autism, or for any student who is nonverbal or pre-verbal, to express themselves.
Yeah, there's the arts,
Good.
there's music.
Yeah.
There's lots of different opportunities where autistic children and adults even can express themselves. There's also some beautiful stories internationally. So there's a famous book, The Reason I Jump, where even if somebody can't speak, they can usually type out and write whole volumes. BBC did a beautiful documentary series, Inside Our Autistic Minds, where they gave voices to the thoughts in autistic individuals' heads, and they're extremely articulate at times, even if they seem completely non-verbal.
Yeah.
So it really is just challenging those misconceptions, asking the community to be more aware of autism, and from awareness we get understanding and hopefully at some point acceptance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something else that I would like to challenge, and this is very personal to me. At the point that my daughter was diagnosed, she would fall in the severe symptom category.
Oh, wow.
And automatically, the physician who saw her just wrote her off. And when I was asking what interventions are available, and the woman looked me in the face and said, if anything could help autism, Tony Braxton kid wouldn't have autism still.
Wow.
And that struck me hard, because I'm in the medical profession.
Yeah.
You're in the medical profession, and you have an idea and an opinion, and you just decide, if this is what it is now, this is what it will always be.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so I think that's part of the thing that we need to get out there, is that if someone gets a diagnosis with appropriate intervention, functioning can improve over time significantly. But I would say temper that with, don't have expectations of what your child is going to be, because you can't see the future. The most important thing is to love your child for as long as they're in your life. And if you do that, then the journey becomes much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And I
gonna.
think Ali would appreciate that. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, my daughter, I would say her language skills were always behind. So we went through the very traditional journey of, is she deaf? Does she have a
Right.
hearing issue? Is it something physical? My husband speaks a different language, so she's learning 2 languages. Is that delaying things? But she had lots of intervention. And I would honestly say now she's a success story for speech therapy, because she almost can't shut her up.
Wow.
She talks, if she bends your ear, she'll tell you 1,000 different facts about sharks in 10 minutes, because that's a particular interest of hers. So it really is very unique and individual to every child. So they say if you've met one child who is autistic, you've met one child. So don't let preconceptions or the myths get you down at the beginning, because there is lots of hope of what every child can achieve.
I love that.
And just to say, in terms of impacting the school community, what we're pushing now is more community activities. Our students are out in the community more. They're using their communication aids in the community more. We're seeing more acceptance. More business places are open to having our students, whether they're verbal, and we're seeing persons more patient to take the time for them to communicate using their device or pictures to express themselves and to gain a service that they want. So one of the places, I don't want to pick anyone, but I know Foster's, they're always open. They've created a line for our children when they go for shopping trips, just to support, because of the diversity in the needs.
Thank you. Thank you so much to Woody Foster, man. Always ahead. I got to say that. We are here talking about autism. Very special topic, very important topic. And we're going to continue with it after the short commercial break. Keep it locked.
The Health Services Authority's new pharmacy is now open at the Smith Road Medical Center. The new location features a large, comfortable waiting area and ticketing system to improve the patient experience. All uncollected prescriptions and refill requests previously submitted will now be available for collection at the Smith Road Pharmacy. Request your refills online at hsa.ky via WhatsApp 925-6534 or call 244-2715. For more information about our pharmacy hours, visit hsa.ky.
Welcome back to Bobo. It's Dane hanging out with you, and I have my special guest. We're discussing all things around autism. There is a symposium that's going to be taking place in April. We'll talk more about that also and just how important it is. But I want the guest to kind of introduce herself, a quick introduction again, just for our listening public that are joining for the first time in the vehicle, just to get an understanding. Who's behind the mic? Who are they speaking to? And what topic are we going to be discussing today? So we'll start with the gentleman first. And you can go ahead and
So good day again. Very quickly, I'm Dr. Stenette Davis. I'm one of the psychiatrists at HSA. I work with persons across the age span from 6 to as old as possible, and I have special interest in persons with neurodivergent conditions.
Love it.
And I am Denise Renae-Williams, and I'm the principal at Lighthouse School.
Love it. Ali.
I'm Ali Olarou. I'm a director of Autism Cayman, non-profit organisation in the Cayman Islands.
Welcome, guys. We're talking all things autism here today, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful topic of discussion. It leads us into our next question now, which is I called it because it's my selfishness putting it out there that I call it my safe space. So I created this like area in my house where I get away because I have 3 kids, even though one is in high school in Orlando right now. When everybody's in the house and they all start the bickering and the fighting and just things that kids do, kids will be kids. You always, as a parent, need that time alone. Some time that you can find that, Ali, you explained it perfectly, and is the right terminology for it, is self-care. And parents, a lot of times, even though we hear it when we are about to take off and go to a destination to do a vacation or see family. Hey, before you put the oxygen mask on your child, make sure you are taking care of yourself. And I always kind of found, as a parent, that was a rude statement to make. When you have that in your head, oh, why would they say that? And then you put it together and you're like, oh, I got to be strong enough to take care of this little one, right? And that's all it means. So when do you, because you all work in that area, right? Obviously, you're not only a doctor at HSA, right, but you have a child with autism. Yeah. Same thing for you, Ali. You work around kids 24/7 that have autism. How does your self-care look for parents out there that's listening right now? Is it a community-based? Do you have people you can run to that you call? Is there a closet like me that you run to retreat? Or do you go in the back and just like look at the sky or go to the ocean that we have here?
Or shall I go first? I think specifically for me, I take long baths. So I usually find I only have one daughter, I should say, so I only know the neuroatypical way of parenting. But when she does finally go to sleep, because it can take a long time sometimes, that's when my house gets quiet and I have the time for myself. I have a great support system of friends and other parents of autistic children who get it. So that's the one thing I really recommend to people is find your tribe or your people that you can talk to that really understand your life, and where our kids don't have to be the same, they don't have to go to the same schools, they don't necessarily have to have the same challenges, they don't even have to have the same disabilities, but parenting a child with any disability is really tough. I'm really lucky that I've got an excellent support system with my family and my spouse who's really supportive, but I do know that other families struggle with that parenting a child with any kind of disability can be really tough in family situations and can lead to family breakdown. That's one of the things I'm really happy about, that we've established this non-profit organisation, because we do hope to provide support structures there and help for parents, because I think there is a lack, I know you mentioned, Denise, of kind of respite care options for different caregivers, for families, for parents, and that's something that we really do want to talk more about.
Yeah, so good.
Find your tribe, absolutely perfect. So because it's an HSA program, I can't self-promote, but there is a book that speaks about Find Your Tribe, and what she's saying is extremely important. So after a while, the concept I've developed is, if I can't take my child around you, then I'm not putting energy and effort in that friendship circle. If you can't be in my space and be around my child, I'm not putting effort in that friendship circle. And what that did was allow for me to meet persons who are very caring and compassionate and understanding, and so that my child can go around those persons and she can be doing whatever she wants in the most other unusual way. Yeah. And persons understand and they're not treating her any different. They're more tolerant and accepting. The other important thing that I learned in my journey is that you need therapy. Whether you have a psychiatric or a psychological diagnosis or not, getting therapy. When my daughter used to scream, I used to literally feel like my chest was on fire. And I'm like, it was just overwhelming. And I went to therapy and they're like, but why is that? And I said, well, I feel like I can't help her. And so they said, oh, it's not about her, it's about you.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's my own helplessness that I'm seeing and battling with. Has nothing to do with her screaming. So now when she's engaged in behaviors that seem unusual, I just join in and then she will just look up and like, you're doing the same thing I'm doing. And then it becomes something fun instead of stop that.
Yeah.
And so getting therapy helped me to be in that space where she can be acting in ways that would be considered traditionally unusual and just literally join her. And by doing that, other persons in the household started to do that as well. So when she had any unusual behaviors, persons would join in or they would just allow her to be herself. And that really, really helps.
I love that. That was such a good way of explaining that.
Yeah.
For you that work in the school system, how does your self-care look?
I think self-care is always a balance that we work towards because it just depends on the season that we're in. If it's the start of the school year, sometimes things can be a bit more and the self-care seems to take a back burner. But generally for me and for a lot of other persons, my big self-care is gardening and like both persons said, finding your tribe.
Yeah.
I'm also very passionate. So it's finding people who are willing to listen and that I can share my ideas at times with, and we can just have that conversation. And once I get it out, then I can take a step back and just relax. So those are the big things for me. And I know, just to say it's not easy. It's something that we're always working towards because teaching children with special education needs and disabilities, it does take from you not just physically, it takes from you spiritually, it takes from you emotionally. Because when you show up in the workspace, you have to show up as a whole person who bring everything, your energy. You come in, the children read your body language. If you come in feeling drained and tired and emotionally not present, the children can sense that. And it impacts how the teaching and learning space is works. So we really have to show up as our best selves, even when we're having our own personal struggles. So it's just every day finding that balance and making sure that we're showing up spiritually, physically, emotionally ready. And I also exercise a lot too. So I'm either going to an early morning boot camp or I'm in the gym.
Yeah, so important to pour back into yourself. I remember telling my friend because he felt embarrassed to have me around. And I found that to be like such a different way of feeling. Like he was embarrassed to have me at the house because he's like, hey, I'm so sorry in advance that this is going to happen. It's just this. And I'm like, I have to cut him so often that I can come up with a terminology for the entire family and for him to know. I say to him, listen, this is an XLR moment. All right. This is extra love required. That's all it is. All right. So do not feel embarrassed about your child. That is your child. I am here. That is your daughter. And I'm going to treat her no differently than my kids. Right. And being that system too, being that support system for them. I have gone away and actually get to know more about the topic and educate myself through them and just their needs. And I've sent him out to have like a date night, an intentional date night with his spouse because it's important, right? Like you need to go out, you need to pour back into each other because the relationship gets affected at some point. It really does. It takes a toll. Think about normal relationships out there already. If they're not pouring into it or doing date nights, then it's going to affect. And I love what the doctor said just earlier about you want to make it look like it's the child, but it's really you as a parent trying to control the situation. That is something I don't think parents realize a lot. Like the child is fine. They're living in their own world. Like, but we want to control that situation at the time. Am I saying this right?
Yeah, and just to add as well, for a lot of parents who first get hear that their child has a diagnosis or a disability, it is a period of grieving for them like anything else because it's a loss of hope, it's a loss of dreams, all of the things that they ever imagined. So they have to first take that time to get to that place of acceptance.
But just for education purposes, right?
Yes.
Because I'm really learning a lot here. Are you really losing dreams and hopes? I got the parents here. Have you heard stories before? Because that is so true. If I'm sitting in a doctor's, I'm trying to picture myself now at a doctor and they say, Mr. Ramoon, your child have autism. And automatically I'm going to think about, like, for instance, I'll put Liam out there. he wants to be this big basketball star, right? I've always asked him, hey, what team do you want to play for? As a parent, I'm sitting down and I'm saying to myself, well, you got autism now. Like, we're going to have to look for a different direction. Is that the right language? Is that the right thinking mentality? Because now that I have the parents in here, I think this is the question I want to ask for all the parents.
So, from my side, I can say, coming to a place where you recognize, okay, I don't get to choose what someone's reality is. Because even if my kid was neurotypical, I could want him to be a scientist, and he decided that he's going to be a comedian. Mm-hmm. And so that is the thing that helps me to say, even if my kid was neurotypical, I can't determine what his final outcome would be. But what I can do is support as much as possible and hope that the time and love and energy that I invest now gives him the best possibility in the future. Mm-hmm. That's my son. And it's the same thing for my daughter. But you also have to come to a place of accepting. I was prepared for a neurotypical child. I don't even have the skill set to raise a neurotypical child. So how do I raise a kid that I can't even interact with? Yeah. And a kid who struggles to understand me. And so you have to grieve. And the persons who struggle the most are the persons who do not grieve. Mm-hmm. And I had to contend with my family being in denial. And they're like, she's going to grow out of it. She's just not talking. And I'm like, there are 3 million things she's not doing. I know 2 million things she's doing that she's not supposed to. Yeah. It's not just that she's just not talking, guys. This is autism, and persons were in denial for years. And me coming to the point of saying, this is what it is, everything that I expected, that's not going to happen. That put me in a position that I could take action. Yeah. And so if you're not at the point where you grieve and I'm sad that I didn't get the daughter I wanted, the possibilities are now different. But this is my kid who I love, and I can do what's best for her. And if you don't come to that place, then that makes it much more difficult.
Well said.
I think from another parent perspective that we obviously all just want our children to be happy and successful in whatever they choose to do. And like I said, if you meet one autistic person, you've met one autistic person, there's such a wide spectrum of autism that it's hard to kind of talk about it in generic terms. But I think what most parents are looking for is their children to grow up, to be happy, to live as independently and successfully as they can with the skill set that they've got. And that's no different from neurodiverse children to atypical children. So from a society's point of view of how we can support those persons to live their best lives, that's where we need to be. So it starts in the school system, but autism is a lifelong condition. Yeah. It doesn't end when they graduate school. So this is where we really need to do a lot more work with the community, I think, in what happens after school, where neuroatypical adults can live their best lives, and how do we support them? How do we put accommodations in place for those that can and want to work, for those that can live independently, and how do we do that? And that's, I think, where the collaboration between government, between educators, between charitable organisations, between healthcare, it really comes into play, because that's the future that we're looking for. And that's once parents have got past grief, which we all go through, we all aspire for our children to grow up and live their lives and be happy and supported.
I love that. Yeah. So good.
I think this symposium is a perfect mix, and it's exactly what you described. There are educators, there are doctors, psychologists, other allied professionals that work with children on the spectrum, and of course, NPO in the community. So literally the symposium is an amalgamation of what we would want for persons to get the support to the lifespan once they have neurodivergent conditions.
And that leads us to a very important one too. Like, why is the Autism Awareness Month important, and how can the public or people join in to help? Anyone who wants to take that one on?
So it is important because our aim is always to ensure that the public is knowledgeable about autism, and it leads to not just awareness but also acceptance, because each person has a place and belongs, and we want to ensure that that feeling of belonging is not just for a neurotypical person but for all individuals irrespective of disability. We want to ensure that. So it is important to have that knowledge going on across the month, and not just locked into a month, but daily.
Yeah.
It's awareness. It's educating persons to say, here is what this child disability look like. And for us at Lighthouse School, one of our big push this school year is developing learner profiles, because that really focuses on the individual child and what are their strengths, what are the areas that they need to work on, what are their learning styles. And we are seeing that even as professionals in education, it helps us to take a step back and look at the whole child and look at what they're good at and work to their strengths, not just to highlight the areas that they have deficits in, but we get that opportunity to showcase their strengths and work towards that. Sometimes it's planning lessons and experiences around their interests, because we know that that will be highly engaging for them and it keeps their interest and focus.
Love it. Yeah. Anything else to add?
Yeah. From the parent perspective, I would say autism awareness spreading in our community makes it easier for families who have children with neurodivergent condition or even adults to go in the community, because invariably there's a lot of shame and guilt that parents experience. And just like you're saying, you have your good friend and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry that you have to come and see this. And you're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But once persons in the community have more awareness and understanding of what autism is, then it becomes easier for persons to be in the community and can have shared experiences without judgment, and then family members can feel more comfortable integrating in the community, because that's also a barrier. Some persons come and they're like, oh, my kid is just a little bit different, but I don't think they're autistic. But I didn't say anything about autism. So in the back of their mind, they know, and now they're dreading getting that diagnosis. But if the thinking could shift to say, okay, a diagnosis of autism is not a death sentence. It now means that you can get specific interventions that would improve the functioning of your child. And invariably, that will make the life of the family better. So I think more awareness in the community decreases shame and guilt in the family, and leads to better outcome for the family and the person with a neurodivergent condition.
Love that.
Yeah, I would really agree that the symposium really gives us an opportunity at a national level to raise awareness and raise and elevate the conversation, much in the same way the Alex Fenton Foundation has done with mental health. We need to bring these issues out into the open and get people talking about them. So the more awareness that we can raise by having events like this, where we collaborate, we learn from each other, we give the public an opportunity to attend, to meet people, to meet other parents, to meet educators, to meet therapists, to ask questions, to learn more. All of that engagement is really where we're going to see, because partly what Autism Cayman really wants to get out of the symposium is to meet more of the parents and ask them, you know, what has been useful for you, but also what do you think is lacking? What can a non-profit organisation and a charity help you with? Is it respite care? Do you need someone to come to your home for a couple of hours to look after your child so that you can pop out and have a medical appointment yourself? You know, attend, you know, because that's, you talked about self-care. Sometimes those things do fall by the wayside because we're so focused on others. So the symposium's a really great thing, and we're hoping it becomes an annual event so that we can really keep that conversation going and building and growing as time goes on.
And I'm sure it will. We're going to come back and we're going to talk all things symposium, time, location, date, and the benefit. And hopefully we can talk about long-term very soon. So keep it locked. This is Bobo.
When you have a sports or fitness-related injury, trust the expertise of the HSA Sports and Exercise Medicine Clinic to get you back in the game. Our internationally trained and certified physicians specialize in sports traumatology, sports medicine, pain management, and orthopedic surgery. For treatment of common injuries such as tendonitis, arthritis, tennis elbow, rotator cuff, or knee tears, schedule a consultation with the Sports and Exercise Medicine Clinic at Smith Road Medical Center by calling 949-8600 or visit hsa.ky for more information.
Okay, we are back on Bobo. Dane hanging out with you. A special program for HSA. And we're talking all things autism today on the show. Been a very brilliant topic. Got to dig in deep on just the word autism, understanding more the misconceptions. Also, there are two parents that happen to be here of autism, kids, and also a principal of Lighthouse that gets to do this job. I like to use that statement, you get to do this job. And it's such an amazing thing of being around these brilliant kids. And, you know, I want to talk about a book that I'm holding in my hand, but we'll leave that for the last part. And there's a special reason I want to talk about it. But also, I do want to kind of talk about the symposium that is taking place at John Gray. Can we get the date, the location, and just how much it's going to cost to go to the symposium?
Absolutely. So it's the Autism and Neurodevelopment Symposium. It's Saturday, the 5th of April, 2025, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So it's an all-day event with registration doors open at 8:30. It's at the John Gray High School, and it's in the Performance Auditorium. So there are 2 events taking place at John Gray that day. One is in the gym, and ours is in the Performance Hall, but we think we'll get a lot of cross paths of people maybe trying both. The entry is free, so there's no cost to attend, and we'd like to encourage kind of all parents, autistic individuals, educators, medical professionals, therapists to register and come by and spend the day with us to connect, learn, and share experiences on this topic. You can register on the Autism Cayman website, so if you go to autism.ky and look for the symposium page, follow the link through to Eventbrite, registration is free.
There it is. And the team this year is a very, very special team, right?
Yeah, so our theme this year is supporting neurodiverse persons throughout the lifespan. And just like we were talking before, autism doesn't end at childhood. It's a lifelong developmental condition. So we're looking at how it's a journey for people and their families, and how we can better support them at every stage through that journey, from early childhood education to adulthood and employment and independence.
Now, we want to ask who this event is for. I mean, it goes without saying, obviously, the parents of any autistic child, but at the same time, supporters, the community.
The general community.
Yeah. So it goes without saying, right? That means there's anybody that wants to.
In order to get understanding and awareness and acceptance, we need everyone to be interested in this topic. So we encourage everyone to come along to hear the speakers, to connect with people and to learn more.
Are we allowed to talk about the speakers? Anybody that's coming that we can talk about?
Yes. So I will be one of the speakers. So we're going across the lifespan. So I open by speaking about how autism shapes behavior. So we look at some of the theories behind what causes autism, and speak about it being a developmental disorder, and how some core features of the nervous system being under or unusually developed that produces the symptom, and that kind of gives you an idea of how it can affect persons across the lifespan, as opposed to being something that starts and ends in adulthood.
There it is. And also just want to talk about, this is the ways that we can keep the symposium continuing to keep going, just how important it is and how it supports teachers. Just talk about that one more time, just how important this symposium will be for anybody, educators, for parents, just to talk about that one more time, just to kind of recap that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because autism support is multidimensional, so it takes collaboration between, the autistic person, their families, their educators, their therapists, medical professionals, and the wider public, employers, service providers. So because of that, it really incorporates everybody as part of the discussion.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. Now I want to talk about research before we kind of wrap the show up soon. Just some new important research that have come out about autism, anything that you guys have discovered as being parents and you being a doctor, obviously, and a principal here at Lighthouse that deals with kids with this condition for every day, right? Is there any new research that has come out?
I think some of the important research is looking at the rates of autism over time. And initially, I think the first time they studied it, we were looking at 1 in 600 persons. And I think that was in the 1960s. And now we're saying 1 in 36. But an important study that came out in 2024. And it really speaks to intensity of intervention. So once a person was diagnosed with autism before, especially if they were caught early in the developmental window, like between 24 months to 36 months, so 2 years to 3 months, it was recommended 40 hours of intervention per week. Right, so that is more than most persons are making if they have a very good job. So
yeah,
and so that is something that's difficult for parents. The cost for autism treatment. So one of what that study showed, and that study they looked at thousands of people, and what they found was that level of intensity wasn't more beneficial than say 15 to 25 hours per week. So moving away from these kind of intensive models where persons are getting 40 hours of therapy per week, I think that's an important step going forward financially for parents, as well as the time that it takes to administer that kind of intervention. And if you're providing 40 hours for one client, it means the amount of persons that you're providing service for automatically falls. So I think that is very useful information for the community.
Love it. That's really good. It's important that we talk on the new research that's being done out there. It's always advancing. It's always getting better. So we also want to discuss that and just get some feedback on there. Is there? I forgot to ask this question, guys, but will there be an opportunity for Q&A? I'm pretty sure parents want to know that at the symposium. Will there be an opportunity for parents to ask? And I know you mentioned speakers, but will there be an opportunity for a Q&A session?
Definitely. The program is structured so that in between there's segments for Q&A. But hopefully going into the future, we can have our more forum kind of base where we're not really presenting, but you have experts on a panel and persons can have the opportunity to come and have questions answered by professionals in the field.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and as a non-profit organisation, we can also look to keep the conversation going. So whether we do other workshops and educational events throughout the year before the next symposium, if we hear from the public that there's particular topics that they want us to talk about, we can obviously work to make that happen.
Yeah, and you obviously, you're one of the directors at Autism Cayman. How are you guys moving forward in helping people support the acceptance around this conversation and just with the parents?
Symposium's like the big premier event that we've got coming up, so that's really where we can elevate the conversation, and we're really lucky to be working in partnership with HSA and the Lighthouse School to bring this important event to Cayman. But we do have other ideas in the calendar. We're looking to create an art exhibition of artwork created by autistic individuals and children as another way to kind of bring, we think it's very important to bring autistic individuals into the community as much as possible. So to collaborate with any organisation, company on island that we can do that. So we're discussing things at a national level. The governor is going to host us for an afternoon tea in May so that we can bring policymakers and educators and parents together to kind of widen that discussion. So we've got quite a few things in the calendar where we're looking to raise the conversation and raise awareness of the issue. So if people want to follow us on social media or through our website at autism.ky, join our mailing list, they can hear what we've got coming up, and we hope the community will turn out and support us.
I love it. And just for any business, of course, you can go onto social media. We're going to have you give the handle, but anybody that wants to support, they want to give any financial support, they want to give their back-ends or maybe include you in a topic that they may be having at work or something. We just want the public to be involved. Maybe they want to volunteer. Maybe there's something they want to be a part of. They want to sit on the team. They want to know how they can help more with their time. Obviously, we just want you to give them a number or email address or your Instagram handle if you have it on hand.
Yeah, so it's at Autism Cayman. The website is autism.ky. Our email is connect@autism.ky. I'm Ali Olarou. Our president is Desiree Powery Tatum. She's an educator at the Island Primary School. I think she teaches year 5, and she's mother to a 13-year-old nonverbal autistic son, Gabriel. So yeah, get in touch with us. We'll be at the symposium if people want to come and meet us. And there will be coffee breaks, there'll be a refreshment, there'll be a lunch break, so that allows people to come and connect and have those kind of side conversations as well, and talk to us about,
So speaking about collaboration, I just wanted to just say a little about the other speakers. So again, this was definitely a collaborative event. So we have Dr. Edwards, who's from the Department of Education, but also works at HSA, and she'll be looking at autism in girls. So that is something that is very important, because a lot of girls get missed with autism diagnosis, and it tends to affect them later in life, not having the support they needed then to be set up for success later.
Yeah.
We have not this Denise Williams, but Denise Williams.
You mentioned there was two.
Denise Williams, right? We'll be looking at the innovative learning method. That is where the tailor intervention specific to the kid versus the age group, which tends to be the model in Cayman. We have Georgie Jackman, which is our music therapist, and this is something that I'm keenly interested in. And she'll be explaining how music therapy helps with emotional regulation. And we'll be having Stonefar, which is a BCB from the Wellness Center. So we have private entities as well. And Inclusion, Cayman will come in later to speak about how they assist with persons, our older adults essentially, being integrated in the workplace, which is what we're hoping for, that persons can live productive lives later on.
Yeah, absolutely. And to get registered, by the way, for the symposium, it is autism.ky / I don't want to forget this.
Symposium 2025.
There it is. And hopefully we're going to be saying that for many years to come. All right. So, guys, we're going to quickly recap some things here, but also end the show. And it's been a good show. I've told them off there, I've really enjoyed the conversation, but the time has come to an end. But before I go and have these individuals to say any last-minute statements, I do want to talk about this book that I have in my hand right here, When a Goose Gets Duckling. And of course, it's Parenting My Autistic Kid. Now, this is my plug, not personally from the doctor. This is me that quickly grabbed this book from him, and I really wanted to talk about it and just how beautiful it was done, how much time was actually spent on it. And it is a wonderful book for anybody that wants to understand autism, but also if you're a parent and you want to read through this, it might be a source of help. But Ali, you also had some feedback on the book too.
Yeah, so I'm about 2/3 of the way through the book, because Dr. Davis was kind enough to give me a copy. And it really reminded me of something that I read around the time that my daughter was diagnosed autistic when she was 3.5. And it was a nurse, I believe, that said this to a parent of a child born with Down syndrome, but it really works with any disability, is imagine you plan a holiday to Venice, and you've dreamed about it all your life, and you pack for Venice, and you start learning a bit of Italian, and you read the guidebook, and you decide all the places you're going to visit and the beautiful trip on the gondola you're going to take down the canals. But when you get out the aeroplane, you're actually in Amsterdam. And you weren't prepared for Amsterdam, and it's colder, you haven't prepped properly for Amsterdam, and you really don't know any of the language, and you're confused and frightened, and it's not what you expected. But you can grieve for the holiday that you didn't get in Venice, or you can learn to love the canals of Amsterdam. And you can take a boat trip down the canals of Amsterdam, and you can see the beautiful museums, and you can appreciate the culture there. It's not what you expected, but there is a joy in the difference. And I think that you put it really well in your book, When a Goose Gets a Duckling, because we plan for the gosling, and then we get we get something that's unexpected, but that doesn't mean it has to be bad. It's just different.
I love that. Yeah. That's so good. That is so good. Guys, I want you to have a last minute statement here. Anything you guys want to kind of recap or talk about just before we end the interview?
I think my last statement is Lighthouse School thrives on collaboration and partners, whether it's community partners, teachers, therapists, support services to include educational psychologists, families. We simply can't do it without each other. And that's the unity that we have found that works, is that collaboration and partnership between all the stakeholders.
Yeah, I think that's true for non-profit organisations as well. So we wouldn't exist if the community didn't rally support around us. So whether you're a parent, whether you're a business person, whether you represent a company and you want your employees to know a little bit more about this, get in touch with us. We're happy to come in and talk about the issue. You can tell we're very passionate about the issue, and we can talk a lot. We're more than happy to work with everyone to achieve our aims. So really just get in touch with us. We have an open door.
Love it.
So
and
I would just like to speak broadly so I don't miss people and then people get offended.
Yeah.
But the Lighthouse School want to be very thankful, and the PTA, and it was the Lighthouse PTA and Denise-Williams, not this Denise-Williams, that connected us to Autism Cayman, and they've done wonderful work with the symposium. The John Gray team behind the scenes, they're doing wonderful work, and for hosting us on the day, so that's absolutely amazing. Everybody at John Gray. The HSA team, once a bit more heard about this symposium, she was right on it and very supportive, and the communications team, Monique Spence, was also very instrumental in organizing this event. There are other persons that will come along, and maybe other persons only know that I'm aware. All the speakers, everybody that will be present. So there are parents who will give video stories. There are persons who are experiencing it who will give video stories. So we thank everybody who are participating behind the scenes that are not yet known. But under the their contribution will be very crucial, and definitely thank you for hosting us today.
Oh, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure, guys. I got a lot out of this, so I thank you for your time, and I appreciate it. Don't forget, this show is brought to you once again by HSA, and this is done on a weekly basis. We always have either a topic of discussion or maybe a special doctor just going to come in and talk about a conference, or maybe just and giving shout-outs or highlighting a special person that works at HSA. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today.